Doug, we've been blessed with a lot of unique guests from that have happened to work at 9-round kickboxing. And tonight's is no exception. We have Taylor, who is in the process actually now of moving, but has an interesting story of a career in sales, of training, of traveling, and is just a real joy to listen to. So
I met her, and then she goes 100 miles an hour.
She does.
Fast. She bounces more than you do.
She does, and she enjoys Meat Lovers Pizza and Chips. So we're delighted.
Yeah, which we found out not long ago.
We're delighted to have her with us on tonight. Please welcome Taylor. Well, we're here in the third chair. I'm Peter, that's Doug, and we're here with Taylor. Taylor, thanks for being here with us.
Yes, of course.
We are so excited to have you. And as we mentioned in the introduction, you are a woman of many talents.
I'd like to think so.
Yeah, we'll talk about some of those. Very, very athletic, including working as a personal trainer.
Yes.
Most recently at 9-round. We've had some other 9-round trainers on to hear their stories. So let's get into it. Being a personal trainer.
Yes.
Now, is it true, and feel free to elaborate, do you ever have some tough clients?
Great
Besides
question.
Peter.
Yeah, he's the one. He's the one.
Yeah.
We already heard the others all
Yeah.
see how bad he is.
Well, first off, yes, thank you guys for having me. I was looking very forward to this today. Thank you to the audience. But yes, great question. I have had a plethora and an abundance of different clientele over the last couple years that I've had an opportunity to work for. Very grateful. They've all taught me different lessons, life lessons, and I think that's been my biggest takeaway. I've learned a lot of patience, so that's been a big one for me.
Patience.
I struggle with that still to this day. It's a bit of a challenge, just being able to control my emotions, reaction versus response. So I think overall, I used to maybe get a little frustrated because I wasn't sure how to handle the situation, but I'm thankful for those opportunities with those challenges, depending on what client I'm working with, because they've helped me progress with where I'm at and how I can better myself for others in the future.
That's good, because it took me 50 years to learn that patience is a key, and you done it in
that's nice, yeah.
a lot younger than I did.
And and I'm a doctor, and you can't be a doctor without patience.
Yeah, I would say it's a very important, much needed quality that we all are still learning.
But some of the things that I see, as the eternal optimist watching, sometimes people come in, and I've been guilty of this. Well, let's just say there's not a lot of effort in the workout. You're there where you're supposed to be punching a heavy bag like hard. And sometimes the clients, myself included, tap, 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 tap.
Yes.
And don't you just feel like going over there and saying, like, hit the damn thing?
Yes. But, I have to take into consideration, I'm obviously coming from a trainer standpoint, but I don't necessarily, know what happened within somebody's day. And I think that just goes for anybody I run into throughout my interactions with a daily, a day. But, I do the best I can to be encouraging, to motivate, to coach. But at the end of the day, it really comes down to the client and the member. If they are wanting to push themselves a little further, I can only do so much. So I think I just have to take into consideration where they're at, accept that, and do what I can and be happy with that.
Sure. Now, I know, at least you've told me about this, that sometimes there are certain clients that come in that just really make your day. Give us an example of like a client or someone who's a friend and a client that would come in that would just say, man, today was so worth it or so meaningful for you. What would that be like?
Well, one, as you know, Peter, I love people. People are really what get me out of bed during the day. I just am such a people person at heart. I can talk to a wall. So, I think, I feel like part of my role as a coach, as a trainer, as a mentor, however a client sees me, is to not only train but lend a helping hand. I understand people come from all backgrounds, aspects of life, and they're looking to get a workout in, but at the end of the day, if I can, prop a smile on somebody's face and help them, change their mood and their outlook for that half an hour or hour, whatever it may be, I've done my job. But I have my days too. I absolutely do. We all do. So, my emotions, give or take, go up and down, and those members, there's definitely that special select few, and it goes a long way when they walk through the door. It brightens my day, especially if they've had a great day. And we can just work off of one another to kind of build that confidence or that laughter, bring out a smile. So
Sure. That sounds fantastic. We need people that bring us encouragement every day.
yeah, joy.
Sure.
It's just so important.
All right. Now, I know this is a question that I've been asked a lot, and I ask a lot. I mean, you there was a time you were a little heavier, and you lost quite a bit of weight.
Yeah.
Somewhere between 80 and 100 pounds. I don't know what the exact total is.
86.
86.
Baby hippo. Fun fact for you all. Baby hippo actually comes out at an average of 86 pounds.
A baby hippo comes out at an average of 86
I learned that at the
pounds.
zoo. Yes.
Wow.
So I lost baby hippo.
That
Yes.
Congratulations.
Thank you.
But I think the question people have, and it's a legitimate one, is like, how'd you do it? I mean,
Oh, I get that all the time.
How'd you do it? I mean, that's no small feat.
Yeah. How did I do it? That's a very loaded question, Peter. Great question at that. A lot went into it. I've always considered myself to be self-motivated and have a lot of self-discipline. I've tried for years and years to lose weight. I really could not figure it out. It was a diet after a diet after a diet. And I'm like, this is just getting repetitive at this point. When I came out here, I found 9 Round, which we don't have back on the East Coast where I'm from. And I have always considered myself to be a gym hopper. So I was trying out a bunch of different gyms in the city.
Gym hopper.
A gym hopper.
This is different than a grasshopper.
Yes,
Yeah.
gym hopper. So my definition of a gym hopper is you try out gyms for free.
Okay.
9 Round was one of the last on my list, and I walked in. From there on out, it just changed my mindset. It turned into something fun for me. It didn't feel like effort. And I really started to work on my eating habits and not making it about a diet. It's all about, I've learned a lot about mindset and how we control, how we perceive and envision or visualize something. I started changing my eating. I was having fun working out. It didn't feel like a workout, and I had a huge support system within the community between trainers and other members.
Yeah, I mean, was that a different piece than before?
No, I always had the encouragement and the support. I don't think I was always trying to do it by myself, and I think I needed help getting going. And that was a huge piece. I'd never joined a gym before, and I think maybe that was a missing piece for me. But once I kind of, hit the grind, I just went. And I mean, it was an exhausting process, a lot of hard work and dedication. But I took off, and I started to notice changes. Maybe not necessarily, physically right away, because I look at myself every day, but with my clothes, and I'm still not done with my journey yet. I'm just at a little bit of a standstill, bump in the road right now. But yeah, I mean, I started to have more confidence. I started to feel better, feel healthier. I just noticed having more energy. There were so many aspects that came along with it, and it really just encouraged me to keep pushing myself. And then I wanted to be a helping hand, lend that helping hand to other individuals that I was working alongside.
So here is a question, and I'm gonna tee it up for the next segment.
Yes, absolutely.
Because I've taken a look at the timer, and the question is this: people, and I've experienced this in my life. I have gained and lost 70 or 80 pounds, probably 6 or 7 times over the course of my life. and after the loss eventually comes the regain. I guess the question would be is, what advice would you give, if anything different than what you've said, to people that sort of experience this kind of yo-yo phenomenon?
Yes, that's what I was about to say. Yo-yo.
Yo-yo.
I've been considered a yo-yo.
Yeah,
All right.
We'll
yeah.
find out right after this.
Welcome back to the third chair. I'm Peter, that's Doug, and we are here with our special guest, Taylor Abbot. Taylor, thank you for being here.
Yes, of
We
course.
left you with a loaded question when after the first break, and that was, many of us, including myself, have had yo-yo times in our life. Lose 70 pounds, gain 70 pounds. Lose 70 pounds, gain 70 pounds. What advice do you have, if anything different than what you've already said, for people that have experienced that and are just kind of like, if I do it again, the same thing will happen again?
Absolutely. Great question, Peter. I have been in that exact position far too many times. And that's why I needed to get out of that rut. I didn't know what it was going to take, but once I found it, it came down to consistency. Everyone has asked me, Taylor, what's your tip? What's your trick? It's different for you, for Doug number 2. It just depends. And a lot of it, about 80% of it, if not more, came down to eating. And I don't consider myself still to this day to be on a diet. I do not restrict that negative mindset. It does not work for me, nor do I think it works for a lot of people, just based off of conversations I've had. I really just like to stay consistent in a healthy, livable, healthy lifestyle. You know, my thing is, if I'm craving something, chips, pizza, 2 of my favorites, or cookies, whatever it may be, I'm going to go indulge. I'm going to enjoy every bit of it, but also moderation is another key word. Consistency, moderation. And you're going to enjoy it more. So, you know, it took me months upon months, and I'm still figuring out what works for you in regards to an aspect of fitness, health, and wellness. You know, some people do 9 rounds, some people do CrossFit, some people are swimmers, precisely. Whatever it may be, it needs to fit for that individual because we are all different, our body types are different. So I think for me, consistency, moderation, finding a healthy, livable lifestyle, and not focusing on a word diet because that restricts you, and in your mind it tells you no.
Yeah, because it's a lifestyle. That's what I found. It's a lifestyle.
It's a lifestyle. Yep.
Change instead of
takes time.
and then a diet. Because one of the things I do, because I lost 18 pounds since May, is I have dark chocolate
Yep.
sitting
Sweet
there,
tooth.
and then if I want anything to eat, I'll go have a piece of the dark chocolate, and that
Does it?
Does it,
Satiates you. Yeah.
yeah, and that's,
Sometimes that's all you need.
you know,
Yeah.
and that's my go-to, you know.
Yeah. You know, you mentioned chips and pizza. That sure sounds
yeah.
good.
It does. It's been a
Oh,
while.
yeah.
I
That's a lot of people, including my weaknesses.
Yeah,
too,
I really love the meat lovers pizza.
Yes,
You
good
know,
one.
Yeah, that's a good one.
Good choice.
If it has a lot of meat and some vegetables, I like that too.
Yeah, that would be the Hawaiian pineapple.
No, I like pineapple, but I don't like it on pizza.
I like pineapple on pizza.
I don't.
With Canadian bacon.
With
If that even
I
is
like-
if that's even a real food.
I love Canadian bacon on pizza, but I
Yeah.
don't like pineapple on
Yeah,
pizza.
I
Well,
agree with you there. Doug.
That was a very insightful answer, and now Doug is going to ask you a few questions.
Family.
Family, yes.
Okay. I understand you had some tough times in childhood and as a young adult.
Yes.
Can you talk about that?
Absolutely. I can definitely emphasize on that question. I I grew up with just one other sibling, my brother, who is 5 years younger than me. And we never, from the get-go, really had a relationship. We tried, but it was always a fighting match. And my parents were absolutely amazing, absolutely supportive. But yeah, very small family, extended family as well. There wasn't many of us, but my upbringing was extremely positive. I was very fortunate in the circumstances I had in regards to my parents supporting us and, having us try out different sports and all of that. So,
You did a lot of sports when you were young?
I did. I tried out soccer and softball and rowing. I did a lot of it.
Rowing like a canoe, or rowing
like the sport. I think it's just called rowing.
Yeah.
Oh, like where there's a coxswain. Stroke.
Yes, I was the one in the cockpit. I told them I didn't fit.
Did you have a horn?
No, I quit after like 2 days of camp. I remember the experience
your
vividly.
Favorite sport?
No, I mean they should have me rowing. I'd like to think of myself as an athlete and pretty strong, and I have some solid legs, which is, what you use a good majority of the time. And yeah, they stuck me in the cockpit, and I was yelling, "Starboard, row 3." I'm like, I have a loud mouth, but they didn't even give me a mic. So yes, I'm an athlete at heart. Played a lot of sports. My upbringing was absolutely amazing.
Did you have any hobbies outside?
Hobbies when I was younger? No, not really. I definitely have more hobbies now. But yeah, I mean, I was very grateful for, my entire upbringing. It was amazing up until about my teenage years, and then it kind of took a little...
So what happened in your teenage years?
Dip. So my brother, unfortunately, he is a drug and alcohol addict.
Oh, that's
so
sad.
he's still going through a bunch of challenging times, and that's been a huge challenge. It's been very hard on my family, and my parents also went through a divorce. So
that was kind of sad because you're a close family, and then
very close.
And
We
then
took
it's
a lot
all
of
broken.
vacation, the trips together, and I have the most amazing memories from my childhood. That's why I have a lot of holidays that I love.
So what was your favorite vacation when you were a kid?
Disney World probably. We did a lot of beach trips, but probably Disney.
Disney World, is that the Orlando
Disney
one?
World is Orlando, Disneyland's California. So
Did you have you ever been to Disneyland?
no, I don't know the difference, and I haven't been back to Disney World since I was like 16. I went also for my high school graduation trip. There was about 32 of us and then 2 teachers. It was an elite
You were only
trip.
16 when you graduated, or that was just after?
18.
You graduated from what? High school? You're probably
Yeah, 18.
Closer to 18.
Yes,
Yeah.
18. So,
17.
but yeah, when my parents got
Did they have
divorced, it was around
Did
when
they
I was
have the
16.
4 parks there?
Like
They had.
Bush.
They have Magic Kingdom.
Oh yeah, Magic Kingdom, Animal
Animal
Kingdom,
Kingdom.
Epcot, which I'd love to go back to as an adult.
Oh yeah, Epcot's
I'd appreciate
neat.
it more, I think.
Yeah.
Epcot and
Music, and it's a studio.
Studio 54?
I can't
No,
think of
it's
it. But
a-
they do have the multiple
it's a
parts.
movie.
Busch Gardens is
Rock
also.
Movies, yeah.
Yes.
They
Rock Club or something?
No, it's named after a studio. I can't remember which one. So
Well,
a famous studio.
if you're at home and you know, please add it to the comments.
I can't.
Yeah, but
it's there.
That's the newest one, I think.
Yeah, they have a Harry Potter world and Toy Story Land. That's what I have on my watch, Toy Story. So big Toy Story
nice.
fan.
You're a big
Oh, those
Toy
are great
Story
movies.
fan.
Big Toy Story
Oh,
fan.
We
Man.
can talk an hour on the movies.
Yeah, I know. But yeah, childhood was amazing. Definitely went through some challenges in regards to my brother and his challenging situation that he's unfortunately still dealing with to this day to the best of his ability. But, and then in regards to my parents' divorce, it was a very tough time for me.
How
Very
old
big
were you
struggle.
when they got divorced?
So I went through about a few years time span of really settling all that, but anywhere between like 16 and 18, because I remember I was in the brink of
Okay.
college.
So do you think it's worse for older, because you were older, I mean high school age, or would...
That's a great question, Doug. I can't really say. I know for me, I stepped up and played a role to help take care of my brother. It was I think it was a little bit harder on him in a different standpoint, But I've always been very strong. I get that from my dad, I think. And I handled the situation to the best of my ability. And, I played my sports. I kind of just got out. I like to drive around and just clear my head. So, and just hanging out with friends. I'm still to this day very fortunate to have amazing people in my world that I can just kind of talk to clear my head and, go from there. So.
We're going to talk to Taylor right after this break. Welcome back to the third chair. This is Peter. This is Taylor.
Woo!
Our guest. She's more important than Peter.
Just for today.
Yeah, way better looking.
Oh, yeah. I don't think I had to see that because most of the audience.
The
could
camera
see.
speaks for itself.
Yeah.
A picture's worth 1,000 words.
Doug, we had the producer back there just shaking his head.
Yeah.
So Taylor, during the break, you said that you're seeing a therapist. Can you tell us how the therapist has helped you?
Certainly, yes. So therapy is something that when I was struggling through my parents' divorce, I was told by many people, friends, family, to try out, go see, so I could talk through my feelings. I still to this day struggle with my feelings and being vulnerable, but I finally broke through when I was ready. I think that was the biggest thing, is I was ready. I don't think I would have had, as much of an outcome, positive outcome as I have to this day, because I chose to take that step when I was ready, and I always knew in the back of my head, okay, let's try this. I think it would be a good fit. And when the time was right, I took advantage of it, and it was really nice to have Switzerland, Sweden, neutral ground, whatever they call it.
I'll go with Switzerland.
Switzerland.
For 200.
For 200. So just somebody to listen.
The mountains are great in Switzerland.
Yeah.
Just somebody to listen that didn't know me. I think that was the biggest thing, because when we know people, especially those people that we might know better than ourselves, quote unquote, it's easy to be like, oh well, and throw in your advice and opinions. So therapists are taught, trained, they learn to be neutral ground essentially, and the feedback that was provided, it was it made me think in a different type of way. So therapy has been beyond amazing. I recommend it highly. I know it can be uncomfortable and it might come off as scary, but every session I've ever gone to, I've walked out like, wow, that was incredible. It just it gives you a sense of relief, and
you feel cleaner. Or?
Yes, 100%. Just a weight off your shoulder. Just being able to express and vent and not also feel bad about it. Sometimes, even to this day, I know I have best friends that are like, Taylor, I'll listen to you repeat that 20 times over. But you still sometimes feel it's a burden and they don't want to hear it. So, a therapist, that's what they're there for. I'll go back and sit there and talk about the same thing for another hour, and they're there to listen. So, and they genuinely care, you know?
Yeah.
You
At
know,
least a good therapist.
Yeah, you have to, that's the thing too. That's probably one of the hardest aspects of therapy, I think, is finding a therapist that fits and suits your lifestyle, and you have to click. You have to click.
There's a technical word for that called therapeutic alliance. And that when you have it, therapy goes incredibly well, and when you don't, it doesn't.
Yes.
Now, in our generation, if you're seeing a therapist, you're kind of like, oh, what is wrong with that person? Now,
Unfortunately, because we all have a stigma.
do you find that nowadays?
I do, Doug, unfortunately.
Oh,
However,
because I was hoping it was getting better. I thought it was.
It may. For me, I truthfully just don't care what people think. I really don't, and I say that bluntly and boldly. I have a very bold personality. Some people love it, some people hate it. It's not about other people. I mean, I care deeply about other people, but at the end of the day, you know, we all have no right to judge. We don't know
And we have to travel our road.
what's going on in somebody else's world. And I think it takes so much out of somebody, and it shows how strong they are to give themselves to what they need to help make themselves feel better and healthier and happier. Because honestly, I think a lot of the world lives in a persona, and it's just unfortunate that we put ourselves out to be someone we're not. And I think we see that a lot on social media, when deep down a lot of people are struggling, and that's why
Social media can be horrible.
Yeah.
I mean, it's shown, especially with teenagers, they have way more depression.
Yeah,
Because they read these stories on Facebook that
It's
aren't
like
true.
getting the Christmas card every day. I don't know if you. In the old days, you wrote a Christmas card and you looked at it, and like the Smith family, everything went well that year. It was like.
Yeah.
And some people, they sound like a Christmas card every year. Oh,
Yeah, and
that's a wonderful meal I took. And you see pictures.
You show the pictures from Mexico and Acapulco.
Oh, we
and
show the good.
Yeah.
And I think actually, something, I mean, I've learned so much about myself over the last few years in particular, but I embrace the struggle now, and I think that's just a part of my world. I do a decent job, and I'm still learning on how to handle it, reaction versus response, as I was talking about in another segment. But I admire individuals who, take it upon themselves to make themselves better and reach out for help or whatever it may be. We are all going through challenges, whether people hide them or not, they're there. And I absolutely admire people who are willing to kind of take that step and not make themselves look pretty all the time. I think sometimes you look better if you're just open about what you have going on, because life is not perfect. It is not perfect.
I mean, that's why I stopped wearing makeup.
Me too, Peter. I haven't worn makeup in I don't know how long.
You should see him with makeup and a wig.
But I must say the report I got about you was wrong. They told me you were very quiet and an introvert.
Yeah, far from.
I think we gotta fire our detective that gives us these reports.
Yeah.
I think so. Well, thanks for that. Sort of the validating that it's okay to go see a therapist. I think
It's more
people
than
need to have.
Yes,
I think sometimes
very true.
men can really struggle with that because it makes them
it's
think I'm
stereotype.
weak. I'm weak. I failed.
If anything, it makes you stronger, because you're putting out who you really are,
Sure.
and I think we can all hide ourselves with a different picture.
And I think it's a generational thing, because our generation, I remember somebody was saying a therapist, and I seen women talk about it too when I was a kid.
It wasn't
my.
okay.
Yeah,
But who makes it not okay?
I think we're learning, hopefully.
That's certainly we've applied that to our show, because we just don't care what people think on this program.
I appreciate people's advice and opinions, but at the end of the day, you just if you really care that much, then there's something else going on inside, and you believe that. So you just need to believe in your truth, and I find life to just be a lot more healthier that way.
It's funny because my dad would give him advice, and he would always argue about it. And then my dad said one day, he said, how come I give you advice, you argue, but then you usually do what I say? And Doug, he doesn't argue, and he never does what I say. but I always took it into consideration, and sometimes I did. I think he was just exaggerating the point there, but I took it into consideration. But that wasn't like the only thing I took into consideration when I made decisions.
You know what's really interesting is how we sort of need each other for helping with our kids. I can tell one of my kids to do something, and they'll absolutely won't do it. I can even give them good reasons why I ought to think about it. But then Doug can come along and tell them exactly the same thing. And one of my kids will say, did you hear what Doug said? That's so smart. I'm going to do it that way. How come you never tell me it?
Yep.
Actually, after a while with my daughter, I just had her talk to certain people because she listened to them, and I knew what they were going to say.
It's funny how it's mindset.
It's
mindset. It's huge.
Well, speaking of an important and different mindset, when we come back, I understand you've had some success in different kinds of sales careers. So let's talk about what you've done and what you've learned about helpful mindsets for a sales career.
Okay.
And we'll also address the question, to be a good salesman, do you need to be a pathologic liar? When we come right back. Real people, real stories, real life. We're looking for guests. We're looking for you here on the third chair. I'm Peter, that's Doug, and how many different ways can we have guests?
Oh, at least 3. We can have them here in the studio in Colorado Springs. We've had guests all the way from LA on Zoom, and we have gone on location, and we got our 3rd one already in the planning phase.
Awesome. Send us an email and we'll get you on the show. Welcome back to the third chair. I am still Peter. He is still Doug, and we have our special guest, Taylor.
No matter what I call
my name
her,
might be Tracy, and only my
changed
sapper
it.
knows for sure. We had a discussion on the break. Before we pick up our discussion, there is a tab in the military you can get called a sapper, SAPPER, and you do a special leadership course, and it is part of the U.S. Engineers part of the Army.
Okay.
Yeah. But that's where you're using explosives to blow stuff up.
Where's the engineering school?
Yeah, Fort Drake or something.
Leonard Wood. Or Lost in the Woods.
Lost in the Woods,
as they call it.
Well, I was in the Canadian Reserve Army, and we never trained outside of Vancouver. But my unit was some of the extras in the first Rambo movie.
Oh, that's kind of cool.
That is kind of cool. And I was an extra in the latest Jane Fonda,
Robert
Redford, Our Souls at Night. Both Doug and I, we were on set.
Look at that.
I stood beside Robert Redford and Jane Fonda for 4 hours.
And I talked to young Sheldon.
And we were not allowed to speak to them.
Well, I did.
Well, when we left off, where were we? We were talking about sales.
Yes.
Sales. Okay, so sales. I know you studied some business in college, so sales. Tell us about some of your sales jobs, what you liked about them, sort of what the ideal job was.
Certainly. That's another loaded question, Peter. Great question at that. And please stop me if I go down a rabbit hole, because I could talk a lot about sales. I have a huge passion, a huge love for sales. I have always believed I get it from my dad. Mm-hmm. He owned businesses for over 15 years, and I was always the top leader in selling the cookie dough throughout school and all the other things. And when I went to school,
did you do it on your own?
Yes.
I mean, your dad didn't take it to work and.
The cookie. Oh no. No, I really. If anything, I was like, "Hey, Dad, I want to come in," and oh no, I did it myself.
Oh, you
took
went into his
action.
office and...
Oh yeah,
So-
because I'm such a people person, as I mentioned. I just love being around people, and I always believed I had a knack for sales. I switched over from communications as my initial major going into college, and then come sophomore year, I went into business, specifically into marketing, which is the umbrella of sales. I have over 4 years of experience in outside sales. To this day, 2 different specific outside sales representative career positions. One in which I held for a uniform facility service company, and my last was for another global company. I worked basically, I provided high-end water services to businesses, both B2B, business to business. Companies, and yeah, I was an outside sales rep, so I covered very large
sold
territories.
water to people.
I literally sold.
Did you ever have like an Alaska territory where you had to sell ice to people?
No, but I could sell ice to an Eskimo, I think, if I tried. So I just have a knack, and it's not. Sales reps get such, still to this day, a bad rap and a negative connotation. I'd like to believe, and truth be told, as I've been told from some of my clientele, that I still keep in touch with to this day. Because key point of it is, it's about building the relationships. And at the end of the day, it never really was about what I was selling. They clicked with me, and that's where it started. I just love people. I love helping them to figure out needs and wants and desires. And if it's not a good fit, because not everything is, then I take it for what it's worth. But I never throw them out of the pot, because you never know when they're going to come back. So I did learn that. That's just one little thing I've learned.
Did you ever find that it's easier to have repeats? It's easier to have repeat sales with people with a good relationship compared to cold calling, sort of, and trying to bring somebody new on?
Certainly, yeah. Great question, Peter. Obviously, it's much harder to cold call and bring somebody new on. That is what I did, though. That's what I know. And obviously, 2 different positions. The one I just came from was more relationship-based, which I love, and I was able to, provide different services. They were more of repeat customers. But, when said and done, it just depends. It says, I think, a lot to this day that I still have a relationship with those people. Still to this day, and not even being their representative anymore. Even if I wasn't, for example, my chiropractor here in Colorado Springs, I walked through the door before she even opened the business. Never sold to her. She never became my client. I became hers.
Oh, wow.
So it just goes to show that everyone's usually, I don't want to say everyone, there's a good chunk of people that are in it for themselves with many different aspects of life. And it's about others. I truly believe that. Put people before yourself. Give, and you will receive. But I love to give to people, and I've learned it doesn't necessarily have to be materialistic. I give myself to people and my positive attitude, and it goes a long way, and I've genuinely just been told that from people. So
Sure. Sort of a technical question about that. I've noticed that it seems like some people would prefer the security of a known wage or a known hourly wage as opposed to the unknown and insecurity but potentially larger wage from a commission.
Yes, so for those of you who don't know much about sales, it's kind of a 2-way street. You get the option for just a salary for some sales positions, salary commission, or both. Both of my positions have been salary plus commission. I don't think I'd ever just do one or the other, especially commission. That's do or die right there, but good power to you. But yeah, I love so many aspects of it. The flexibility. We call it writing your own paycheck because you do determine what you earn. So it definitely, as does any position in life, takes a special person. Sales in particular, you got to be a go-getter. You got to be extremely driven because it's usually on your time. You decide what you make. So you got to go out there, and it's a numbers game at the end of the day. So you have to be hitting quotas daily, weekly, monthly, and tracking numbers.
Isn't there a little bit of fear of rejection you have to deal with on some level when you're selling?
Oh, great question. Yeah, more rejection than not. The word no is definitely embedded in my brain to a certain extent, but we've always learned the more no's leads to a yes. And you know what? No, you can't take it personally. And a lot of people
Yeah, but
do.
isn't that hard?
Not for me anymore.
No?
No, I just...
So how many customers, like when you were selling water, how many customers would you see a week?
Oh. When I first started, I was probably walking into 50 businesses a day.
50 a day?
By the
so
time I...
50 businesses. And how many would say no?
Oh. Probably half. Probably.
So you sold 25.
So I would see about 50 a day when I first started, because you really kind of need to make a footprint and take action on it. But, I mean, my territory was huge, but, yeah, I mean, I have walked into over 2,000 businesses in the Springs, like, legitimately walked in to them and handed them a business card.
Wow, that's pretty
But you're going to
amazing.
get 50 to 75% rejection.
Okay.
And they'll come back.
So you had 500 to 1,000 successes then.
Oh, yeah, you can't look at... When I got home every day, I had to celebrate the wins. And that's very hard for people. It's taken me a while to get there. I'm still getting there. But capture those wins. I don't care how big, how small, because we all have to start somewhere. And as I said, it's all about perspective.
Sure.
So whether it's an inch or 3 inches, it just doesn't matter, because if we're progressing forward, even if we get knocked down, we're still, you have to keep your eye on the prize. So I just always kept my eye on
Would you give
the
yourself
quota.
little rewards? Like if I sold 10 things, I would like have a meat lover's pizza.
Yeah, and some chips.
And some chips, yeah.
You know, my rewards were my cash flow, to be quite honest. And I
Sure.
love, which I'm sure we'll get into, to travel. And you
Oh,
need
yeah.
money to travel.
You need
So
money
I
to
would plan a new
travel.
trip, book a flight, go from there.
I am so excited that we've had you on tonight because now I have another person that I can borrow money from.
Yeah.
So when we come back, I'm going to ask her a question about when you work at a place like 9 Round or a gym, you still really are doing sales.
Mm-hmm.
You know, someone might have the
Different
idea, I
aspect
work
of
there, I'm a trainer, I'm training, but it's really as much about sales. We'll talk about that when we come right back. Hi, I'm Peter from Pikes Peak Recovery Coaching, and as you know, I do help people with drug and alcohol recovery issues. I love to help people get better, but I also offer a variety of other services, including regular life coaching services. I've helped several people write and finish a book. I've helped a doctor that was in medical school graduate and then get into a residency. And I also actually have quite a background in mathematics, and I do some math tutoring for the GED as well as the ASVAB for those that are thinking about a career in the military. So my contact information is on the screen. Please send me an email or a text, and we can talk about some of these services and how I can help. That's Peter Grigg at Pikes Peak Recovery Coaching.
Welcome back to the third chair. We have Taylor and we have Peter, who has all kinds of questions in him.
Yeah, all kinds of questions. Yeah, you see these trainers working at facilities, and you think, look, there's a jock or a jockette. I don't know if a jockette's a real word. But they have to have sales skills as much as athletic prowess. Because isn't a job like that really somewhat sales as well?
There is definitely, I'd say, an aspect of sales and a very different development than what I'm used to. You know, I do think yes, we do more than just train. However, you know, at the end of the day, I think it does come down to building relationships, especially in a trainer clientele member environment. That's a very vulnerable state for both ends, and you're really trying to get to know somebody. But in comparison to what I was doing, I training, I'm trying to change people's lives, personally, in a group setting, whatever it may be. Whereas what I was doing before, I'm sorry, but what I was selling wasn't going to change somebody's life. It might have provided them healthier water. But I definitely took it a little bit more seriously, just because I'm, putting myself in somebody's life. They're allowing me to step foot and be there to help them progress. So in a sense, it definitely can be a sales-related type environment, but overall, I think there's a more there's a bigger picture to it in regards to changing somebody's life.
Sure. And I've noticed that you got a few tattoos. You've told us on the break you have like 8 of them, and you've spent like $20,000 on it or something. Yeah, and so why do people, or at least why do you like having tattoos so much? Do you have them like each one has a certain meaning or message from a part of your life, or do you just enjoy some guy that may have just been released from prison with a big needle working on your arm? I mean, like what?
Yeah. No, another great question. I love tattoos, and I always say to everybody, once you get one, you're addicted. The pain for some people, it definitely sucks depending on where on the body, but I do enjoy it in a weird way. Yes, of course, people are going to love him, people are going to hate him, but it says a lot about a person. As I was mentioning over the break, I do believe it's a conversation starter, and I think especially when they have meaning behind them and they tell a story, it's amazing why people put something on their body so permanent, and it clearly most of the time has value. Obviously, there's those stupid ones, but sometimes whatever we always
sometimes a lot of those get covered up.
Yeah, but I all mine have meaning, and I don't regret any of them. They're a piece of me because of who I am, and I'm very proud of that. And no matter what it is, and I love tattoos on people. It says a lot about them and who they are as a person. So
I like your saying on your arm. Can you show the audience?
It is all about the adventure. I got this in Colorado years ago because I lived by that saying, and
that's nice.
Yeah,
all about the adventure.
It really is.
Well, and speaking of adventure, I know you're in the process of changing states, and I don't know because you're doing that, you're going to have a different business somewhere else. Do you have any sort of contact information you'd like to share? I don't know, maybe if someone had a question for you, or I don't know what.
I would
because
say,
you're in transition.
Yeah, I would say the best bet would be honestly email. So just providing that, we can do. I have 2 different emails, so I can provide both of those. TM Abbott, ABBOTT, at charter.net. So that's TM Abbott at charter.net, and then Taylor, TAYLOR, Abbott 100 at AOL.com.
That's the one I have.
Yes.
So I didn't get.
Everyone makes fun of AOL, but it works.
I have an AOL and like 12.
The other one doesn't always work.
Yeah, you're like us old guys, because both of us have AOL.
Yeah, we have AOL.
I love it. Never any implications.
Absolutely. And so, thank you. You are going to be on the show again next week. We're so excited. We've got some really cool questions.
Looking forward now to next week.
Be there or be square. And so I'm going to ask everyone to please share, subscribe, and hit the notification bell icon so you know when we have uploaded a new episode. From 2 Men and a Duck Entertainment in the third chair, and Taylor, who may even guest host a segment next week, we say goodnight and we'll see you next time. No one asked me any questions. I have to ask myself questions. And good night.
This has been the third chair.